So we got to talk about this. I only have one monitor, so this is going to look a little bit weird, and hopefully the recording works properly. But if you guys haven't heard, EA just got bought not for $50 billion, but for $55 billion. This is probably the biggest video game news of the year. Like, it probably legitimately will be. And specifically, where's this $50 billion coming from? It's coming from Saudi Arabia. Now, people are pretty upset about this one. Some people are. And there's also, it's like a developing story. And basically, they're overpaying for this. And the way that they're planning on making back money for it is most likely mass layoffs with people being replaced by AI. This is crazy times. I don't even know if my headphone works, but we got a video on it here. Let's dive in.
Electronic Arts is reported to be in advanced talks to go private in a $50 billion deal funded by Saudi Arabian investments.
So obviously they put out this video after this because they've updated it to $55 billion. It was originally reported for $50 billion.
And Jared Kushner's Affinity Partners. Welcome to Inside Games, the only gaming news show brave enough to not forget.
Oh, not forget what, Bruce? We'll get to that. Also, brief aside, I'm still continuing my whistle-stop tour across Japan.
I don't know what that
Currently
means.
in Osaka. Enjoy the view for a moment. Ooh. Yeah, on to much more grave, complicated, and unfortunately political matters.
Yeah, we don't want this in our video games usually. Wall Street Journal and Reuters both reported that the $50 billion deal for EA.
So yeah, since this has come out, Tom Henderson has been the next person that's come out and spoke out about this and said, this is not necessarily going to be a good thing for us.
Could be announced as early as this week.
Yeah, which is very sudden, or seemingly sudden. The group of investors backing the buyout include private equity firm Silver Lake, Saudi Arabia's public investment fund, and, like we said, Jared Kushner's Affinity Partners.
So if the deal goes through, it would be the largest leveraged buyout in history.
Saudi Arabia's public investment
in history, not just in video games, in everything.
Fund is part of the country's Vision 2030 project that's intended to decrease the country's economic reliance on oil by investing.
Yeah, so basically with the world going away from oil, going away from gasoline, Saudi Arabia is branched out and they've done things like, for example, Live Golf. That's a good example. Or now buying EA as a way of investing in other things. It's smart. They need to do it. But not everyone's happy, number one, with Saudi Arabia, and then number two, with the way that they're going to do things.
In other industries like video games.
The investment fund's gaming arm, Savvy Games Group, aims to increase Saudi cultural influence through the world's largest entertainment industry, and that is video games.
Yeah, so what's the problem? Of course, everybody wants to export their culture, everybody wants to invest in the arts, everybody wants to diversify their economies. So why are we cringing, Bruce? What's the problem?
There's lots of problems with Saudi Arabia, Lawrence. There are a lot of problems.
Yeah, there are.
That's in the news a lot, not just for video games. Saudi Arabia, number one, had several circumstantial ties to the 9/11 attacks on the United States in 2001.
Okay, I didn't think they were going to go with 9/11 right away, but they did. Okay, so here's the thing, right? I'm immediately going to play devil's advocate on this. Everyone's government has done horrible things, right? Everyone's government, like, you can look at America and you can be like, okay, well, what about this genocide or whatever things have happened in the past or weird CIA projects? Everyone's government's done horrible things. We got Russia doing crazy stuff. We've got Netanyahu doing crazy stuff, and I don't want to get political about this, but everyone's done horrible things. It's kind of what they are taking with this and what they are going to do next with it. And yes, the difference is some governments are still doing horrible things, which isn't good. But what are they going to do with EA? Apparently, more microtransactions, more AI, which nobody wants. But again, that's early reports.
Yeah, and we're going to try our best to be, objective about it because direct links have not been proven, but there's a lot of smoke around that. For starters, 15 of the 19 hijackers were Saudi Arabian citizens.
Additional evidence implies that individuals aiding the hijackers were potentially working as Saudi government agents.
Yeah, financial support for Al-Qaeda can also be traced to wealthy Saudi individuals and Islamic charities, though never directly. It's always laundered through, and of course the individuals claim to have no knowledge of where that money ended up.
And obviously the Saudi officials have done the same. They've denied any involvement. And again, lots of companies like WWE, and there's a certain comedy festival that's happening right now. That this is we'll get into it.
And much more recently, and I guess much less mysteriously, there was the murder of Saudi journalist and dissident Jamal Khashoggi, who was assassinated by Saudi government agents at the order of Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman in 2018.
Saudi Arabia's attorney general even eventually admitted the murder was premeditated. So at this point, we know that they did that.
Yeah, and there was a lot of outrage at the time, but money has a habit of making these things just kind of flow under the bridge eventually.
That's right. The U.S. Department of State found the Saudi Arabian government guilty of a vast array of human rights violations in a...
So take the CIA, the strange projects, the assassinations out of it. This would probably be the thing that worries me the most, like human rights violations, because you have to think that the interesting thing about this, they haven't talked about yet. Like what this means for the games, and I'm assuming they're going to get to that. But you also have to assume that they're probably going to take at least one or two studios to Saudi Arabia, or build studios in Saudi Arabia, a place where there are human rights violations, and then that's going to be a whole other problem with buying EA's games, which like Mass Effect, like just think of some big games, a Dragon Age, Battlefield. And some of the talks while we've been here at Call of Duty Next have been about how much money EA has put into Battlefield, and it's almost as if they knew that this deal was going to go through with the amount of money they're putting into creators for Battlefield, with the amount of money they're putting into advertising and building this game out. It's like they knew and were building it up for this sale. It's interesting.
2024
really
report, including but not limited to. Lawrence, do you want to go ahead and read those?
This is a long list. Yeah, here we go. Arbitrary or unlawful killings, disappearances, torture and cruel, inhuman, or degrading treatment or punishment, arbitrary arrest and detention, transnational repression against individuals in another country, serious restrictions on freedom of expression and media freedom, including unjustified arrests or prosecutions of journalists and censorship, restrictions of religious freedom, and prohibiting independent trade unions, or significant or systemic restrictions on workers' freedoms of association.
So I'm sure some of those things could be said about the United States of America as well, but we know that they're happening in Saudi Arabia. Saudi interest in EA likely stems from its FC franchise, which has a broad cultural
Yeah, that's
reach.
probably going to be
As Bruce mentioned, the
big
upcoming
thing.
Riyadh Comedy Festival serves as a recent example of Saudi restrictions on freedom of speech, and also how throwing money around tends to make people forget those things pretty quickly.
Comedian Atsuko Okatsuka even posted the performance contract for the festival over the weekend. This is great intel, revealing restrictions on any jokes that would defame Saudi Arabia, its ruling government, royal family, or any religion or religious figure.
And just to show that that's not a lighthearted thing, comedian Tim Dillon was fired from the event for jokingly dismissing that Saudi Arabians have slaves when justifying his willingness to perform. But just by doing that, he was axed from the lineup, and he's not getting that Saudi paycheck anymore.
That's right. Bill Burr is on the chopping block currently right now on Reddit. Lots of people are mad about Bill Burr taking that money. And
here's the thing. They give a lot of money for events like this. Some examples of this is, if you guys don't follow golf at all, I know it's a weird thing. Live Golf, right? They paid millions and millions, hundreds of millions to these golfers to go over there and play, and they did some good things for the game of golf. Like the PGA Tour, which is American, doesn't allow anyone on tour to record and put up their rounds of play. They basically own the people who are in the PGA Tour, whereas Liv said, you can come play for us and you can still do your own thing. So, which is actually a way of freedom of speech, but it's a roundabout way of doing it. Meanwhile, they're also like, you can't say this, you can't say that. Everyone's
a few other comedians have been embroiled in this, and this is not the first time Saudi Arabia has sort of caused other problems. Like again with WWE, UFC is the same thing. They're sort of obviously the Live Golf tournament. That is another major thing that has been going on for a few years. And whenever these entertainers or anybody else takes money from Saudi Arabia, everybody sort of goes, not sure about this.
Yeah, it's not the best. And Bruce, like you mentioned, we're Americans, and we are both very familiar with our own government and its crimes on the world stage. But at least we ostensibly still have freedom of speech here, freedom of religion, freedom of a lot of things that are just right out in Saudi Arabia and kind of like openly out. So it's not great. I mean, American imperialism being what it is, at least as a citizen, you can go to whatever church you want. and ideally not face hate crimes directly from the government for it. But yeah, the willingness of their government to spread cultural values directly through media and through investment, and essentially rehabilitating their national image through that investment is a bit concerning when they're still so openly authoritarian and
well, they do get to, now that they own the medium, they do get to dictate what the world sees of that, right? If they own a media company, they get to choose how their world, how Saudi Arabia is portrayed in their pieces of media.
Theocratic. And kind of continuing from that, folks can find issue with media produced in the United States as well. I think a lot of the issues that people have lamented in video games are because companies are publicly traded, which means that a lot.
All right, this is important. This part right here is important.
Decisions go back to the investors and returning the maximum amount of money for investment. That doesn't always produce the most satisfying, culturally enriching, or profound video games, of course. But at least the cards are on the table, at least when it comes to satisfying investors. There's also legal boundaries about disclosure. There's things they have to tell investors. If it's a monarchy and a theocracy, you don't have to tell anyone, and your motivations are not as obvious, I think.
All right. So here, I'm going to end this video here because I don't want to talk about the political side of things anymore. Here, I'm going to go here, and then we're going to hop over so you can see my whole face. I'm going to take this out. The part that I want to talk about here in regards to the purchase of the game, the two things that I find most interesting is how they're going to make up the money, where they're going to devolve this into. And they're probably going to heavily focus on the things of... They're going to portray Saudi Arabia in a great light. They want to do that. That's part of this purchase. They also want to make their money back. Now, making their money back apparently is going to come down. This is from Tom Henderson. Using AI, mass layoffs. That is worrisome. That is not good. Now, here is the interesting part, and I've heard nobody talk about this. The way that video game developers typically work is if you're a full-time employee at, let's say, EA or BioWare or any of these companies underneath EA, they're going to give you stock options. Now, what are stock options? They're stocks in the company. And because they're a public company, those stocks are publicly traded, and when the value of the company goes up, you make more money. That is how a lot of these people are given their salaries, is with stock options. Now, when they go private, all of those stocks disappear. But in order to do that, they have to pay out all of those stocks, and those stocks payouts are based off of the final sale price. So these higher-ups in EA are going to get massive payoffs based off of the amount of shares they have. Now, these aren't just the higher-ups. They're the bottom-of-the-line devs and development teams and workers and things like that. Now, they are going to go ahead, and there's going to be devs who have been at EA for 15 years who are going to make $1 million plus off of this sale. How is Saudi Arabia going to tell these developers, maybe even go against their morals in certain things that they want them to do, to build the games that Saudi Arabia wants? It is going to be very hard, but they're going to lay off a lot of them, but it's going to make a lot of people... It's a very weird dichotomy between all of it. So you have that, and then you have what's going on with Battlefield right now. And Battlefield getting promoted out the wazoo at the same time the game is being sold to Saudi Arabia is super, super weird. And yeah, guess what? We've been told that the microtransactions are going to be super limited for Battlefield, but now with another country owning your game, are they going to stick with that? And maybe, remember how there was those interviews about Battlefield, how, oh, we're going to have down-to-earth microtransactions for the first year of the game? Well, maybe it was actually because this was going through, and a year down the line, a different people are going to be owning the company. So there's also that. It's a wild time. It's a wild time. I don't know where this is going to go. I don't. And we're going to be following it. And I had to make this video because this is probably going to be one of the biggest news stories of the year. And I have to go to an event now. So I got to get this video up. And yeah, more videos coming soon. The next 2 days are going to be insane. So make sure you're subscribed. Do it. We want to get to 100,000 subscribers on this channel. Subscribe.